Hey everyone, Camille here from 88 Fitness Training. Welcome back. Today we are talking about the age-old topic. Which one is best? Overhead tricep extensions or tricep pushdowns? So we're going to explore this topic, so stay tuned. Check it out. All right, when it comes to training triceps, there's a couple of basic moves that people do, one of which would be an overhead tricep extension or a push down. And both are really effective at working the triceps, but which one's a little more? Which one has the edge? That's what we're here to talk about. I'm sure whoever's listening has a favorite, as do I, and we'll talk about that too. But in general, the triceps have three different heads. There's the long head, the medial head, and the lateral head. And the triceps are a pretty big muscle. So if you're looking for very developed arms, you definitely want to train triceps. They account for 2/3 the size of your arms. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into the different exercises. So let's start with tricep pushdowns. This is a very common thing you see at the gym all the time. In fact, this used to really be one of my go-tos for training triceps. Standard setup, you would see a cable with a rope, and you're just gonna grab this rope with a nice neutral grip. You're gonna pull your arms down to your sides and then extend at the elbow, squeezing the tricep. Now there's different grips and different apparatuses you can use. Like you can use a straight bar for this, a rope, a V-bar. In fact, I'm gonna show you all three just so you can see the difference. And then with the rope, since we have this one set up, you can go from neutral grip to overhand, and you're really gonna start to feel that lateral and that medial head of the tricep real close to the elbow joint, especially when you come out and kind of spread the rope apart. So it's a really great exercise. You can usually load the weight up pretty good. So I got it pretty light, but I can, of course, make this a little heavier, make it more challenging for myself, and squeeze just like that. All right, let me show you what a V-bar looks like on the push down. The rope's probably the most versatile attachment you can use if you're doing tricep pushdowns, but a V-bar just looks like that, hence the name. All right, hook this up. Now with this one, I usually can't feel the muscle activation quite as much, just because you do have to place your arms slightly more in front of your body, because if not, you hit your legs. As you come down, you can't fully lock out that tricep, but it definitely has a place. It's a lot more neutral on the wrist, which is one of the reasons that a lot of people like it. And you can, again, usually crank up the weight pretty good. All right, so that's V-bar. And then lastly, let me just show you a straight bar. Straight bar, just like this. Same setup. All of these have the same setup on the push down. All right, that weight's starting to smoke me, y'all. All right, so just like this. The key with this one is you really want to keep those hands in line with the wrists. Again, you're flexing at the elbow, really coming down and squeezing. And the push down's a really good one because you're on the cables, you have constant tension. You know, it's pretty beginner friendly, especially if you're new to the gym. There's not much to it. And you're really able to squeeze and feel those triceps. So my go-to for push downs would definitely be the rope, number one. I feel like you have a lot more range of motion, especially if you set up 2 ropes versus 1. And then from there, the straight bar and then the V-bar. So all in all, the push downs are pretty good exercise. Even just doing that little bit I just did, I can definitely feel my triceps. They were actively engaged, they were firing. I definitely felt it, so pretty good one. But let's go ahead and talk about overhead options, and then we'll compare and contrast and talk about which one's the most effective. Now let's talk a little bit about overhead extensions. You definitely have different variations of this. For starters, you could do a dumbbell overhead extension. I'll go ahead and show this to you. So you're just gonna take the dumbbell, place it overhead, bend at the elbows, and extend up, squeezing those triceps, just like this. Now this is a pretty good one. The one thing I will say, as you progressively overload over time and start to lift heavier and heavier dumbbells, this gets really cumbersome because of the shape of the dumbbell. And it's also hard to maneuver into position. I've seen James, try this with the 110-pound dumbbell, and it's just a workout to even get it up into position. And at that point, you're starting to risk injury and different things like that. So you have to be a little careful with the overhead, with the dumbbell. But it's a really great one if you're just starting out. You're able to fully stretch those triceps, get that squeeze at the top, just like that. Another option could be some type of skull crusher or even a French press with an easy bar or barbell. So I have this easy bar here, same thing. We're gonna press it overhead, bend at the elbows, dropping the bar behind our head, come up, squeeze, just like this. And then lastly, we could also go with the rope, an overhead rope extension. This is something that you would commonly see at the gym. However, I'm gonna do it in a way that's not so common at the gym. So I'm actually gonna drop our anchor point pretty low to about hip height on me versus anchoring up high. And then I'm gonna take that rope behind me, stretch it up, bend at the elbows, and back up. It's actually not low enough. I heard it click for a second, so drop it one more. I want to be completely under tension the entire time as I come down, fully stretching those triceps and back up. But these are 3 different variations, and they're very different than the tricep pushdowns. And so tricep extensions overhead in general are going to emphasize more of the long head, which is the biggest head of the tricep. So if you're really looking for those big sleeve defining triceps, you definitely want to train the long head and get the overhead extensions in. So now that I've shown you both the tricep pushdown variations and the overhead extension, let's compare and contrast and talk a little bit about them. So when I was doing the tricep pushdowns, you can really see that I'm only stretched at one of the joints, one of the insertion points for the triceps, and that's right at the elbow. But when you think about the tricep, it's actually attached right by the shoulder as well as at the elbow. So if we're talking about trying to fully stretch that muscle and have load on it, I really want to be stretched at both. So you can just see again with the push down, I'm only stretched at the elbow as my arm comes up like this. Now the triceps stretch, and then I come down, contract, again, stretching at the elbow, but I'm not stretched at the other insertion point of the joint. In order to get that, I have to come up overhead. So now all of a sudden you can see where maybe this has the advantage because I'm stretched at the shoulder, and as I drop the elbows down, now I'm stretched at both insertion points on that tricep while under load. See, just like this. And again, this cable is giving me that constant tension where I can feel it the entire time. So I'm really overloading that tricep. I'm putting that stress on it, and I'm getting that muscle activation and really able to squeeze at the top, just like that. So that's really just something experimenting over time that you kind of come to realize that it's definitely more challenging when you are doing overhead tricep extensions versus the pushdowns. Certainly you can move maybe more weight doing the tricep pushdown, but you're getting a much, much superior stretch when you're overhead. And I'm not alone in that, so I've done a lot of research. I think there was recently a study, National Institute of Fitness and Sports out of Japan. They actually did this study with, I think it was 21 different participants, and they had them do overhead with one arm, and then the other arm they did push downs. And over the course of the study, they actually noticed a 40% increase in muscle growth in the group, in the arms that were doing the overhead. So that's quite significant. And there's been a lot of studies since then in other countries as well that just shows that the muscle, when it's stretched and under load, has the most potential for growth. So y'all, I think that answers it. I mean, hands down, the overhead tricep extension is gonna be the one where it's at. So go ahead, grab those ropes, grab those dumbbells, whatever you need to, and get that deep stretch. And I want to hear from you guys, like which one do you prefer? Which ones do you like? Can you notice a difference? I mean, I certainly can when I do them side by side. And I'm not saying not to do tricep push downs. Like if you are trying to gain strength over time, I think that's a great one to still work into your program. But when we're talking about trying to gain muscle size, trying to get that hypertrophy, I would give the edge to the overhead tricep extension variations. So definitely let us know what you think. We'd love to hear from you. This channel's for you guys. And definitely check out our other videos in our tricep playlist. All right, y'all. Camille, 88 Fitness Training. Like and subscribe.